The governance is number one, especially HR needs a lot of support from the board to get something going. So my personal experience, the clients that we've spoken, so have that, secure that top management support, because these need to be, triple top down, then it becomes effective.
When you're planning your skill-based initiatives and whatever you focus on, as far as possible, just have a clear business case for you. What's the business problem I'm going to solve for? Is it going to improve productivity? Is it going to improve my employer experience? The moment you have that, to some extent solidified, it will help you with everything else.
Skills-based organization is not a fad. It is the reality, right? So if not now, very soon, you will need to start thinking about skills-based organization. But don't overhaul, start small, pick up your right HR processes and policies, align your processes and policies towards that goal. Make sure you're very clear what are you trying to achieve.
It's fairly common for organizations to craft roles for their employees. But if you ask our panel today, they will suggest that a skills-led strategy to people will likely deliver better results. Hello, you're with Echelon's Decision Points, and here with us in the studio today are Saurabh Dwivedi, who is the partner offering leader for organization transformation at Deloitte India, Japneet Sachdeva, who is partner human capital at Deloitte India, and Upeka Ukuwela, who is director human capital consulting at Deloitte Sri Lanka and the Maldives. I welcome you all to Echelon. Saurabh, let's start with you. From a organizational point of view, whether it's a private sector organization or a non-governmental one, what are the key steps in implementing a skills-led strategy? How can organizations identify, for instance, the critical skills they need to be competitive in their chosen area of work?
Absolutely. Thanks, Shamindra. I think, if you look at organizations, and traditionally what has happened is, organizations have always looked at the structure of work into roles and jobs, right? And therefore, attaching people to those jobs and roles. Eventually, what happens in reality is, and we've seen this through research studies as well, is people are doing only 25 to 30% of what is written in their job description.
Right.
The rest of it is outside of the scope of their job description. And that is because they are applying their skills to various projects, various tasks, or various cross-functional, initiatives that organizations are undertaking. And therefore, when you look at the modern age organizations, they have started moving into what we call as skills-based organizations. So looking at breaking down each of these jobs or tasks into what are the skills required to deliver on the outcomes. And once you define those skills, right, you can then look at all the other HR programs and policies and also your work packets as a combination of various skills and handpick people who may be sitting in various functions or silos within the organization.
Okay. Japneet, if I can bring you in, this sounds fundamentally different to what all of us are, conventionally used to doing, which is we define a role. That's what we've been drilled into us, right?
Yes.
Define the roles, match the person to that role, and then track KPIs on that defined role, right? Are you suggesting this is like a fundamental shift from how we've approached work?
Absolutely. So if you look at an anchor for everything, right, as you said, erstwhile organizations have had role as the anchor for everything, right? I'm having a staffing conversation, it's going to be role based. I'm having a learning conversation, this role needs to learn these particular. What we're saying is change the anchor of your organization. From role, change the anchor to be a skill as your key anchor. So I'll give you examples, right? How do I do staffing of a person on a project? Let's not do this role needs to do this particular job. I need these skills to do this particular job. Even rewards and recognition, for example, anchor has been role. I'll reward a particular role, what they're doing. What we're saying, let's reward skills. If somebody has critical skills in the market, let's reward those. So essentially, the whole anchor of everything in the organization, from your org structure to your processes, everything we're saying, let's use skill as the primary anchor than using role as the primary anchor.
And if I can, maybe add to that, fundamentally, it's also important to understand why is it happening, right? And there are various lenses based on which, these skill-based organizations are becoming a necessity now, right? One is the worker or the employee angle, right? There are workers or employees who want more autonomy, right? They want more freedom. They don't want to get blocked into a silo for the rest of their lives, right? Which was, 30 years ago, 20 years ago, I joined finance function, I would retire as a finance expert. I joined a supply chain function, I will retire as a supply chain expert. That's not the case. The half-life of careers now is around 4.5, 5 years, right? Which means what I'm doing right now will become extinct in 5 years, right? The second lens is the business side of it, right? The businesses and organizations of today need more agility. They need to be more nimble. They need to be faster on innovation, right? So you need to really think through, how do I make sure that I'm able to get more from the same resources that I have.
Yeah. So I'm thinking there's an obvious, Upeka, to you, a obvious sort of conundrum that's coming up on in the minds of people watching this. If you're a leader, you'd also be concerned about productivity, right? How do you reconcile a skill-based role, if it's not even a role, it's a set of skills for an outcome, versus productivity? Because often your KPIs or key performance indicators are, in my experience, often based on also productivity. There's aspects of productivity built in. How do you reconcile that?
See, let's take a role of a recruiter. Traditionally, how do we recruit? We will put a JD, we will find a candidate who have done a particular qualification, have done the experience. And when you put that criteria, the recruiter's talent pool is very limited. So that person will take more time to find the right fit. But same job, if the recruiter is doing at a skill-based organization, you don't necessarily need to look at what their current job is, what their qualifications are. You can find candidates who has the skills that you're looking at, maybe adjacent skills. And you can look at, how we can upskill, make them fit, before that to understand what the skill gaps are. And eventually the productivity of the recruiter increases because he or she has access to a broader talent pool, right? So similarly, any job you take, when you are skilled, you will take less time to deliver the work. It will result in productivity. So you are not bound to do a job that you don't aspire or you don't have skills to do just because you're the job holder.
Right.
So that's where most of the benefits that come when you move to a skill-based organization, especially the organizations will have more flexibility that will result in increased productivity, more agility, and you actually can adapt fast to the changes that's happening in the business environment.
Shumendra, Upeka, if I may add, I think great question, Shumendra. So I actually think skill-based organization really promotes productivity, and I'll tell you why. So recruitment example was one, but you look at the biggest challenge organizations have is the same skill is residing in different departments, doing similar kind of work, but with some difference in context, of course. Now, what the organization is getting an opportunity when they go to a skill-based, you can actually shift those resources here and here, right? One department is not doing well. I'll take a typical example, right? Project management skills, right? Every organization, you will see project management skills are sitting across the departments.
Sure. Yeah.
Now, if I were a skill-based organization and I could actually allocate my resources or do my workforce planning and scheduling based on skills and not based on roles, I could easily allocate one to the other. One department is not doing well, one product line is not doing well. All my project managers could help another product line that's doing better. So it essentially, if you could actually get to that level of a skill-based organization where all your talent management, especially his workforce planning decisions, are based on skills, it gives you really the opportunity to optimize more and hence as an organization be more productive.
And also it increases employee satisfaction and experience as well, right? Because you are not pushed to do something that you don't have skills, or you don't like to build skills as well. Sometimes, our job dictate us to have this skill, but I'm not really interested in getting that skill. So when you have this view, it creates more employee experience and engagement as well.
And that's a very critical point Upeka is bringing in, right? In a lot of employee engagement surveys, you'll see one of the biggest issues people will say is, I'm not happy doing my job because I don't get the skills that, I'm not able to utilize my skills.
And yeah, that's one of the biggest points. I'm not able to utilize my skills on the work that I'm doing, right? And that, in fact, if you look at our own organization, right, that is one of the key, things that is coming out. And most of the clients that we talk to, and then people, the generation which is coming into the workforce now, right, need, to feel that they are deciding their own careers, right? They are deciding the work that they're doing, and they're able to utilize their skills in newer things that the organization is dealing with.
So I'm curious, from the point of view of an organization that wants or is convinced by your argument that it should not be roles-based but skills-based, right? How do you transition? What's your experience about successful transition from role-based to skills-based? I mean, do we even have the systems, the frameworks, HR management software that's kind of built around the premise or the primacy of skills to success versus role to success?
To an extent, yes. The systems have the capability, but the challenge is the organization ready to make the transition or not, right? And some of the things that I've, in my experience, right, that I've seen where the resistance comes is organizations think of it as an overhaul rather than, taking it in steps, right? Which basically means think of it as you don't have to really move your entire organization into a skills-based organization, right? Start with a function or a department or a location where you think there is a closer affinity to skills, right? It could be digital department, it could be marketing, it could be sales, it could be any of those, right? So start small, right? Focus on the low-hanging fruits, right? There are many examples where organizations have said, okay, this seems simpler to transform, right? So let me start here, see the impact, show the results, and then start moving it and hopefully move it into a kind of a revolution which is moving organically across the organization. The third simpler way or third way that organizations have approached this is pick up one HR process, right? It could be learning and development, it could be hiring, it could be performance management, and transition that to a skills-based organization. Many organizations have now moved their L&D to a skills-based L&D programs, which means there are no, it's not related to your roles, but what skills do you want to learn, right? And therefore, you get into that. Some organizations start with skills-based hiring, right, rather than role-based hiring. So it is for an organization to decide what's their biggest pain point, what is their focus area, and start from there. Don't try and do it in one go.
And Shumendra, to add to Saurabh and the question that you said, right? I think today we have the power of technology and AI to do it for us. So a few years back, if you told me, I want to do a skill overhaul of my organization, I want to know what skills my people have or my roles have, it would have been an extensive 6-month exercise to, go by role, you look at every skill, what are the proficiency levels that I have.
And by the time you finish it, it is already
the skills would have changed,
not relevant.
Right? But that's not the case today, right? Today, what I'm saying is, you build your AI and algorithms, your models, which can pick up all my data, what learning courses I've taken, what my performance management history, the roles I have done over the years, the experiences I've had over the years, the feedback I've got from my manager. Now, the algorithm can just pull that structured and unstructured data together and in like 30 seconds tell you this is your skill profile looking like. And, right. If I go a step further, once this becomes a automated institutionalized process, every time I go take up a new learning course, it's automatically going to update my skill profile to say, or I take up a new project, right? After the end of the project, it's going to update the skills that I have. So I think it's easier for organizations now, considering we have the technology, we have AI who can help us speed up these things. It doesn't have to be manual and extensive, months and months of exercise in putting together in skill assessments and role skill profiling.
So just to add one more thing, if you take a non-tech view, Saurabh spoke of this governance, like who's driving this transformation? Is it the HR's responsibility? Is it like leadership? My CEOs telling it, let's move to skill-based, even a function, but we need to have clarity on who actually owns. So the nature of it touches multiple touch points, even if you take one function. So you have to come with the view that it requires cross-functional collaboration. One function on their own cannot do that. The second one is, again, a non-tech view, is that you have to have a common language for skills. So we need to have that fundamentally what we mean by a particular skill and what we mean by that proficiency level. So that there's a lot of technology solutions, platforms available, but if a company wants to start small, with very little limited investment, those are two key things that you need to look at it.
I'll go to your first point, Upeka, and I'm asking you this because you have a unique perspective on the Sri Lankan layout. You possibly have engaged with organizations that are interested in doing this transformation. What are the ingredients, non-negotiable ingredients for a success of a transition from a role-based systems to a skills-based system? We'll come to AI as we go along, but yes. I'm just curious to understand how people react to this in Sri Lanka.
See, the first one is the governance piece. Everybody has to be on board and have, they should believe in that we are, what's the benefit that this will give us?
Right.
Just because you want to move to skill-based doesn't mean that your organization has the maturity, or maybe the industry that you work in, it's very difficult to get into skill-based. It needs a lot of effort.
Okay.
The second part is, it actually links into having that philosophy, because you are all this time for so many years, you've taken a role-based approach. So everyone needs to agree again that common thread from here onwards to hiring, deploying, developing is going to be skills, right? That's very important. And then the right investments, because you need to make certain changes to policies, processes, and especially the investment in technology. So if you try to embark this on a very manual way, it's going to take a lot of effort and time. And by that time, the skills have, the demand for skills, everything has changed. So the organization should be ready to make an investment. To move to a skill-based organization.
I'll give you, there was a recent study done by Deloitte, right? Global study. I don't think we have the Sri Lanka cut on that, but so the study looked at the leaders and the workers' perspective, right? Almost 73 to 74% leaders said that they think that skills-based organization is the best way to move forward. But when we ask them, do you think your organization is ready for a skills-based organization? Only 6% leaders said their organizational infrastructure is ready for this. But on the flip side, if you look at it, almost 92-93% employees felt that they think that a skills-based organization, they would rather utilize their skills across the entire organization.
Okay.
Right. So there's a study which is available, and it has really great insights on how the leaders, the perception difference between what the leaders think and are ready to do versus what the employees are expecting. So this is one of the key elements that comes in the way of implementing skills-based organization.
Is this study a public document?
It is.
Okay, so possibly we'll link that study to the description of this video. You can go download it then.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm like intrigued by what you're saying, because I was about to ask you if the team is going to be the biggest stumbling block, because people hate change, and when you say now we're going to measure you from a roles-based approach to a skills-based approach, I would have thought the resistance is going to be greatest at at the employee level, at the worker level? It seems
No,
it's not at all.
The resistance is the maximum at the leadership level.
All right. Okay.
I think employees are ready to be appraised or assessed at a skill level.
And I'll tell you the reason for it, okay?
Yeah.
So look at from the employee's perspective, what's going to happen, right? So from a leader's perspective, for them, it's a big investment, right? We're talking about technology. We're talking about changing the way they've been doing things for the past 50 years, right? So from a leader perspective, it's a big change for them. Now look at from the employee perspective. What's happening? Number one, they are getting the opportunity to use their skill set across multiple businesses within the organization. Okay, that's one. Number two, the moment we start using skill as the base, let's say, let me give you an example, right? If I can do a skill matching and tell you if you were to move from role A to role B, or what you're doing today, tomorrow you want to do something else, these are the skills you need to develop, right? The employee is actually getting career pathways, which he or she was not getting earlier. And we were discussing about employee engagement earlier. One of the biggest challenges we see is I don't know my career pathway. I want to get promoted, but I don't know how to get there. With the skills-based organization, what we are helping them with is we're giving them a path. We're saying, see, these are the skills that you don't have today, which you can actually develop and get there. So employee is getting the variety of work that they've always wanted. They were able to utilize their skills very well in different kind of roles, businesses, different kind of work they're doing. And three, we are opening career pathways, learning opportunities for them with a transparency associated to it, which they've not had in the past. So I think employees are actually looking forward to it.
And see the flip side of it as an employer, Shamin, if I ask you all this time, what has worked when it comes to, rewards, promotions. Now you're going to make sensitive decisions like promotions, like rewards, using data. How sure are you about that data? Is it valid? Is it verified? Yeah. That's one of the biggest concern when you are moving to a skill-based organization.
Sure. That goes back exactly to the point that the organizational infra is not ready to support skills-based. Are you ready to stop saying that I want to hire a branch manager or an operations manager or a talent acquisition specialist and say, no, I need a digital systems thinker. I need somebody who understands certain 1, 2, 3 skills, and I'm able to how will you equate the compensation of how will you say benchmark a branch manager's skills that you've broken down to another branch manager who may not be equal to what the way this organization is defining, or promotion, or just transfer or mobility, right? It's very difficult to take those decisions, right? And that's why we feel the resistance is more from the leader's perspective, and rightly so. I'm not saying that they're wrong. It just has to be taken step by step, rather than thinking that we'll do an overhaul of the entire system in one go.
Let's base it on skills.
Yeah.
Hiring is a great example. Promotion is a great example.
Learning is a great example.
Learning is a great example. Performance pay is a great example, right? So you're rewarding what is critical to their job. Role title is not critical to their job. The skills that they bring to the role is the critical to the job.
Organizations that want to do this, Upeka, have the burden of legacy, because they've been tracking data, gathering data based on a certain format, role-based format, right? How does an organization that's convinced that they need to move then try to untangle this? How can you? What sorts of changes to how you approach this does an organization start to institute to be able to move?
Yeah. So first step is pick which function, which area, how big you want to go. Right?
On becoming a skill. How fast, how big, how much effort you're willing to put in. Right.
And then you identify already you're on a job based, right? You identify what are the skills. I mean, surface of it is a job, but what is underneath the root is a skill. So you understand what are the skills you need, and you do skill profiles. And at the same time, you go and assess your employees to understand what's the skill inventory you already have. So now you find actually it could be a gap. You may have to find, buy, borrow, build skills now, and then you move into what are the future skills you want. So in the simplest form is first you need to understand what the skills you have internally, and then identify the gaps, make the investment for learning to have your skills ready for the future.
Going by your experience, and this is to all of you, I'll start with you, Upeka. From your experience, for what reasons do such initiatives, ambition to move to a skills-based organization stumble or fail? And potentially from what you have seen, can you learn from the experiences of these organizations?
Yeah, absolutely. See, even the organization, so I intentionally making a shift towards skill-based organization. The biggest challenge what we've seen is the disconnect between what is implemented and the employees' knowledge on why and what's happening, right? At the top level, you start implementing certain things, but as an employee, I don't know what's happening, what is going to happen to my job, how my compensation from here onwards is going to be determined. So broadly speaking, you can put all these challenges into misalignment between people, process, and technology.
In fact, your previous question, the study that I referred to some time back, your previous question is the number one reason why organizations are not able to make this transition, which is just sticking to the legacy practices and the inability to move away from that. The other big reason is organizations are not able to identify what skills are the most critical to my business priorities or business vision, right? They start with certain skills which may or may not be important for where they are trying to, align from a business perspective. The third is inability to reach a common definition or taxonomy of skills, right? What defines a skill, right? And what would I want people to invest their time and effort into, right? That also becomes one of the, there are many other reasons, but I think these are some of the
cultural element to it also.
Yeah.
The mindset.
The mindset. Right? Do I want to, focus so much on skills and learning? I'll give you a simple example, right? Who owns the skills agenda? So Upeka was touching upon governance, right? Even a lot of organizations today will not have a chief learning officer sitting on their exco, right? Yeah. So the chief learning officer will be sitting somewhere under the HR function. So it's also a cultural shift to say, how much is skill important to me, right? How much is this learning journey important to me?
In fact, is learning even or should be owned by HR?
Exactly.
Or in the recent times, should learning be owned by business, right?
The organizations who have a chief learning officer sitting as a part of the exco, they're actually saying this, right? That it doesn't have to be owned by HR. Right. That person is a critical part of our business leadership, right? Who's going to put our journey on. So I think it's a big cultural shift also on, what is your focus on skill building? And honestly, if you don't focus now, with the speed with which we are moving, the speed with which we are changing, of course, we have hesitation, what will happen with AI or not happen. But the speed with which the skills are changing, if we don't focus, we'll end up in that legacy situation again and again, right? We'll be behind the market as organizations.
And this should never be a one-time, job done, we are skill-based.
Right.
It cannot be, because like Saurabh said, it's a journey that takes a lot of time and effort, conscious effort.
In fact, it possibly takes more effort because a role need not change from year to year, but the relevant skills a person needs or an industry needs keeps transforming.
That's a very critical point, Shumendra, you brought in, and I'll talk about. So we see a particular role like a drilling engineer, for example, and we did some analysis recently. We saw AI coming up as a skill required for a drilling engineer. Oh. Now, I'll tell you we went back and said, okay, what's happening? Now, what was happening was a lot of organizations were using AI to detect a fault in a drill. And hence, the drilling engineer needed to understand AI. But to your point, right, we have to continuously evolve. We have to continuously say, what is the future skill looking like, right? Green skills, AI, everything. The erstwhile plant worker is going to understand what sustainability will have to understand what AI is. So,
I'm going to quote a fellow partner, and I hope he doesn't mind me quoting him. But he said something which stuck to my mind. He said, people should not be afraid of AI, or that it will make them lose their jobs or whatever. But yeah, what they should be afraid of is that if they're not using AI in their jobs, right? So that's exactly the point. Drilling engineer, AI, sustainability, all these topics, right, have to be embedded in each of the roles, and therefore skills become important, right? What skills you're focusing on and what skills you need to focus on as you move forward.
And I think we need to understand that it's a business priority, right? While it has to be embedded into talent management processes, if we don't focus on these skills going forward, it's going to be an impact in productivity we discussed. It's going to be an impact on your effectiveness. You're not going to stay at pace with the market if you're not investing in skills today. Now, skill-based organization is one of the ways, but in general, right, that focus on investment in skills is not just a good thing to do. Your people will get learning skills. It's critical for you to stay in business tomorrow.
Yeah.
We've talked about how AI can help how AI can fit into this in two ways, right? In the fact that it's becoming a skill set that you need to have, and how AI can be, in this instance, deployed to help with the transition. Or if you were a skills-based organization, that AI can help sort of elicit information out, right? When you're consulting, when you're talking to organizations, what do you think their technology and by extension AI pain points are? Are they sensitive to AI and the skill sets that they need to have and how they can deploy it? What are their apprehensions, and what's been their attitude to it?
I think it's different across different markets, right? And I think each region is at a very different level of maturity, when it comes to adoption of AI, right? There are certain markets where they've already moved, the Western markets, where they've already moved to the extent that AI is the way of doing things, right? And everybody is talking about, okay, how do I now bring AI into what I am doing, or how can I improve customer delivery, how can I improve employee delivery, how can I, all of those things. Then there are markets where almost everybody has started experimenting with AI, right? And they've just started the journey. They've done a lot of POCs, seen some benefits.
What's that?
Proof of concepts. Proof of concepts or prototypes, right? Of can AI be applied to some use case within the organization. They've seen the benefits, but have not been able to move to production or have not been able to commercialize it. And then there are markets, and we've been having some recent conversations where there is apprehension about AI, where they say, because there is a perception about AI that it will require a lot of time, effort, and infrastructure from the organization to move to AI, which is not true, right? Again, I keep going back to that point. It's not about an overhaul that you need to do, be it skills-based organization, be it bringing AI as a skill into your organization. You need to start small. You need to start with, small pockets within your organization to be able to see, what benefits you can get from AI.
Yeah, and if I may add to it, I think one of the challenges is a lot of organizations went onto the AI prototyping journey with the objective that we want AI, but not with what is the business problem I'm trying to solve. So it was more that fancy AI and now generative AI, I want to do something and hence I will do it. The thinking should have been, what's the business problem I want to solve and how is AI going to come in? So that's one. And I think second, the focus has not been enough to say, I pick up a business problem and demonstrate the ROI that this AI is going to bring me. So the prototyping happened because AI was fancy. The prototyping did not happen because there's a business benefit I'm going to get out of
Absolutely.
it. The moment we get to that stage that, I talk to my clients and say, see, you don't need AI everywhere, right? It's just fancy to pick up cases where we can demonstrate value for you, where you can we talked about efficiency, effectiveness, where I can give you a measurable outcome using AI. And then it's not going to be difficult to do the investments or go to productions and not stop at the prototyping stage.
And see, if you take Sri Lanka market, what we've been hearing is, especially AI in HR, they're very hesitant because they feel you have to go put AI in business first and then HR is the
Right.
second priority. So the conversations we've been having, exactly what Saurabh mentioned, they feel that the fundamentally HR, the process needs to have a mature process. Then you have a proper functioning HCM. Then we look at AI, because for them AI is big bang. They're going to, everything's going to change. So
Yeah, it's going to be the magic pill. Yeah,
magic
yeah.
to fix all the problems. But you really don't need to have that level of maturity. If you want to start, you can start with something small, but like Japneet said, it should solve a real problem to HR.
In fact, globally, the organizations who have embarked on the AI journey have started either from customer-facing processes or people-facing processes, and then kind of percolated down to other parts of the organization.
I'll give you a simple example, right? We're talking about skill-based organization. We're talking about skill assessments, right? One of the biggest impediment on skill-based organizations is that I don't have a skill repository of my people. Now, it takes us anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks. You tell me these are 10 data sources you have, right? You have learning history, you have performance history. You don't need to boil the ocean, you tell me 10 data resources. The algorithm will take 4 to 6 weeks and give you an individual level skill profile.
Okay. Wow.
So that's like the little pieces of AIs that you can use, right?
Yeah,
and
but if you try to do that, in a traditional way, you share an
That's
Excel
a
sheet across
6 to 9 month exercise.
Yes.
multiple departments, and then get them to fill that sheet. You have to have hand holding to fill that.
And there's no validation to it, right? I mean,
Exactly. It's not based on the track record.
It's not
right?
data. It's gut feel. It's gut feel.
It's gut feel, yeah. It's what I
And-
think.
And the data will come out from job descriptions, which we've established are no more relevant, right? So that's what happens.
How can an organization build a culture of continuous learning? This is not a one-time transformation. Sure, you recognize perhaps the importance of this, and this goes back to somewhat traditional approaches, maybe, right? And while you're sort of answering this, also talk to us about how technology can assist or boost this process.
See, learning, what learning used to be something good to have. People who like to learn will learn. The others will do the job as it is,
Exactly.
right?
Right.
From muscle memory, you still do the job.
Exactly.
For learning to be part of the culture, it should be part of the values.
Sure.
Like, for example, the organization we are part of, learning is one of our core values. So
Right.
whether we like it or not, it's in our DNA. So anybody who's coming from out also will get that injection of DNA. So first and foremost, you have to make a conscious effort to embed learning as the core DNA of the organization. And then you have to give flexible and accessible means to learn. So if you get people to sit in a classroom, do a long course, it doesn't work like that. We have gone into micro learning, right? We see YouTube, shorts, IG stories. That's where we learn. And what is our attention span? Maybe 10 seconds. So you have to give multiple ways of learning. So the flexibility of learning is with the employee, and plus it should be something that they like to learn. So that's where technology and AI can help in. Japneet can add more into that, the technology that's
I think
available for learning.
Yeah, it's a very tricky thing. Culture transformation, any kind of culture transformation, and what she said, is hard, right? It will not come, overnight. And so we've debated this a lot, right? We've debated this a lot that should you reward learning, for example, right? So I have completed these many hours of learning, or I have completed, which is maybe you need to do it initially to start sort of building that culture. But we've been against that conceptual idea of, rewarding learning. We want to get to a point, what the examples Upeka was giving, that it becomes an intrinsic driven process, right? So it's accessible, so I will quickly do it, right? It's suitable to my attention span, and somewhere at the back of the mind, my organization appreciates this. So it's not directly related to a reward, but my organization wants to continue upskilling. So I'll give you an example. One of the clients I worked with, they said, we want a skilling journey for all our employees on what are the skills that they can build. And it should not be limited to what they can do within this organization, but also something that they can go outside the organization. Now, that's that's you building,
Yeah.
that sentiment within the organization that we believe in you building skills. If that means you're going to get more employable outside, so be it.
So be it. Yeah. And maybe if we zoom out the question a bit and from a learning perspective, think of it as how do you build this transformational culture, right? A continuous transformational culture within the organization. I think one thing which is very, which I think everybody says is the push has to come from the top. The leaders have to get aligned and drive some of these initiatives. But the drive has to be to the extent where the entire culture then starts becoming a pull initiative, which means organically you are able to show results, impact, where the business leaders then start coming to you and submitting proposals to say, we need to do this. We need to transform the business. We need to use technology here. So till the time it doesn't become a pull, right? And it's always a push. Your learning programs, continuous learning, your transformations typically do not work.
And gamification we've seen works a lot when it comes to learning, right? If you can gamify, things, and you have a leaderboard which tells me, so everything that pulls you towards it, right? The push is not going to work.
I suppose people understand the concept of gamification, but in this learning, when we're talking about learning, talk about a few applications of gamification that can make it interesting for everybody.
So let me start. So essentially, and we've been doing this a lot for our AI and generative AI skills, right? So we've done all those things, right? Little nuggets here and there, but we've also made it a competition across businesses. So now we actually compete to get on the top of the leaderboard.
Right.
I have done these. So it's not just AI courses. I've seen an experience video. I have gone and studied 5 different use cases of AI, some of simulation games as well. But the core principle of what you ask in gamification, the moment they get that competitive spirit to kind of learn and do more, and all of us, at least I can say for ourselves, consulting professionals are generally competitive, right? So if you can get their competitive streak and bring it to learning, then I'm doing it not just because I have to go and do a course, but I'm going to look up on some leaderboard and rank high. So it's a little bit of mindset, pushing behaviors.
I think it's not only professional services. I think human instinct is as soon as there's any competition, the amount of effort definitely increases. You would want to see your name in the Hall of Fame rather than the Hall of Shame, right? So gamification, is working across.
And see, gamification is not only limited to leaderboard or champions. Sometimes collecting badges.
Yes.
If you notice, I mean, sometimes I've seen, we would like to do a course and you post it on LinkedIn, right? So that collecting badges itself creates competition.
So that leads me to this next question, right? Now, for a large organization, it can have a structured learning experience. Learning and development can be a large structured process where you have in your intranet or whatever, you have a lot of material that you can tap. But when you look outside, say, take YouTube, it's a university if you want it to be.
Yes.
Right?
Do organizations use these resources?
They do.
Can you sort of make it part of the process that free content, YouTube content available out there, Coursera or something like that can become part of your learning?
Absolutely.
I think we've seen a lot of shift there. So if you see, in the past, when we spoke about learning, the primary thing was content creation. I think last decade or so, nobody's talking about content creation. They're talking about content curation only.
Right.
So it's whether it's LinkedIn Learning or it's YouTube, all we're saying is just pull together those 10 links that I want to provide my people.
And just go for
learning
the
paths. You curate, right, what you want. If it's 5 areas that you want them to be, read and learn, we curate it from multiple sources. It could be YouTube, it could be Coursera, it could be a Udemy free course, it could be a LinkedIn course. It's just that we curate it and have it in one place so that it's easy for the user to access and learn at their own time and pace.
Do you think organizations realize how easy it can now be? Do they get it?
It is. See, for a learning function, if you put it against investing in developing content, curating is very easy, cost effective.
Sure.
Absolutely. And I was giving an example. There are various team members within our organization who do these skill courses outside, right? They don't depend only on what's available within our network. They'll do the skill course and come back and say, I'm certified, I'm skilled, and I would want to apply this into what I'm doing. So the availability is not a constraint anymore for large or small organizations. I would rather say new age organizations and smaller organizations are much better at it than larger organizations.
All right. This has been a wonderful conversation. I think we've covered a lot of ground and kept it very interesting. I'll ask each of you to take a minute, if you will, and help us wrap this up. Can I start with you, Upeka?
See, for me, if you want to move to a skill-based organization, first understand where do you want to start and for me, I think the governance is number one. Especially HR needs a lot of support from the board to get something going. So my personal experience, the clients that we've spoken, so have that secure that top management support, because these need to be trickled top down, then it becomes effective. And then start small, make that effort, and be mindful that you're not going to have a whole organization changed miracle overnight. It's a journey. You'll fail in certain areas, you'll maybe succeed, but make it make your journey more agile, so you achieve what you are planning to achieve.
Sure.
So I think what I leave with is when you're planning your skill-based initiatives and whatever you focus on, as far as possible, just have a clear business case for you, right? What's the business problem I'm going to solve for? Is it going to improve productivity? Is it going to improve my employer experience? The moment you have that, to some extent solidified, it will help you with everything else. It will help you to get buy-in from, your leaders, the organization. It will help you get the investments that you need in technology and, people, data, etc. And it will let you reach that future state, that the aspiring state that you get, because one bit by one bit, as you prove the ROI, as you prove the business case for what you've implemented, I think that's the biggest. So don't get to a skill-based organization because it sounds great and it sounds everybody supposedly is talking about it. Get to it because it's going to help you improve productivity, because it's going to help you improve your candidate experience. So I think that's what I believe.
I completely agree. I think organizations need to realize that skills-based organization is not a fad; it is the reality, right? So, and if not now, very soon, you will need to start thinking about skills-based organization. But don't overhaul. Start small. Pick up your right HR processes and policies, align your processes and policies towards that goal. Make sure you're very clear, what are you trying to achieve, right? Is it faster innovation? Is it productivity, as you said, Japneet? Is it speed to market? Is it, employee experience? What are you trying to achieve by that? Are you trying to, enhance the agility and flexibility within the organization? And then, start measuring the output or outcome of that. But what's the most important is that you need to verify, validate, and then continuously evolve the model. It's not one and done. You'll have to continuously evolve the model.
Saurabh, Japneet, Upeka, thank you. This has been a wonderful conversation.
Thank you so much, Shumendra. Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.